All right, on to the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. U.S. officials reportedly gave the Taliban a list of people that the U.S. wanted to evacuate. According to a report from Politico, the list included Afghans who served alongside the U.S. during the war, U.S. citizens, and more. As the military prepares to leave Afghanistan now, the window for evacuations is closing, and critics say this move could have lasting effects for those unable to make it to the airport in time. Let's bring in Politico defense reporter Lara Seligman to talk a little bit more about this. So, I mean, Laura, on the one hand, you can kind of understand why the U.S. felt it would be beneficial to give the Taliban a list of people, but you can also see where the problem is. Can you talk a little bit more about why the U.S. Felt that they needed to, or why it was the right decision to hand over this information?
Sure. So, of course, the problem here is that the Taliban has a long history of hunting down and brutally murdering these people, particularly the Afghan interpreters and others who helped America during the 20-year conflict. And we've heard many, many anecdotes over the past couple of weeks from interpreters who've had family members killed and their houses burned down by the Taliban as retribution for this help. To your point, the administration has made clear over the past several days that this was not one giant list that they provided the Taliban ahead of time, but rather that in instances when they were trying to get a bus or a group of people through to the airport, they gave Taliban guards a kind of manifest, which included all the names of the people on the bus. So it's multiple lists as opposed to one list, and that's important to say. Also, the Biden administration has, behind the scenes, including with lawmakers, defended the move, saying that it was designed to speed up the evacuation of all these at-risk Afghans and get them out sooner, because, of course, the Taliban is manning the checkpoints around the outer perimeter of the airport. But still, lawmakers and military officials even are just furious that this is happening. And I had one defense official describe it to me as basically a kill list. So this also came up, like I said, during a classified briefing on Capitol Hill last week, I believe, that turned extremely contentious. And lawmakers were just so angry at the administration that this was happening. And in fact, several of them have come out with statements in the last week after our story was published, calling for investigations. So a really controversial move by the administration.
Yeah, it's sort of, you can see why this is complicated. U.S. leaders have called the Taliban partners during this evacuation. And certainly the Taliban were supposed to provide some semblance of security around the airport. We see how well that went. Could the U.S. have facilitated this type of evacuation without sharing this information with the Taliban?
Certainly. I mean, I think that providing a manifest of a list of names makes sense to some extent to make sure that people were getting in that were supposed to get in and people who were not supposed to get in were not getting in. And I know that's happened in several cases. But on the other hand, this is a highly at-risk group of people that we know the Taliban has been trying to hunt down. So it seems like a list of names on a manifest wasn't completely necessary for the Taliban, especially if it ended up containing any information about where they work, who their family was, who they worked with. So I definitely think this was not something that they had to do. Rather, it was just something that they did to try to speed the evacuation along, because as we know, there have been many crowds outside of the Kabul airport, thousands and thousands of people trying to get into the airport. And many of them we just don't have the space for at the actual airport or at the secondary locations that these people are being flown to. So I think it's part of the strategy to get rid of this choke point at the airport.
So National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said yesterday that despite all the hazards, any U.S. citizen left in Kabul can be evacuated if they wish. And I think he said there were several hundred left. However, people are still facing obstacles when it comes to getting to the airport. Is this still realistic at this point?
Well, I think that the issue is the Americans are about to pull out. We're supposed to be out by the end of tomorrow. And what that means is that the military has to start drawing down. And in fact, they already have started drawing down a couple days ago. And so what that means is there are fewer U.S. troops to bring people through. There are fewer U.S. aircraft, potentially U.S. troops to process these people and get them out. So each day, honestly, each hour, it's becoming more and more difficult to get through the gates. And yes, we are hearing reports of either the Taliban turning away people at the airports or people trying to get in, but gates being closed. People that are being told to leave the airport because there's not any more room for them. So really, this evacuation effort is tapering off at this point. And as we saw over the past couple of days of numbers, the numbers of people getting out is going slowly down. So I don't anticipate there will be tens of thousands more getting out, maybe a couple more thousand over the next 24 hours.
Wow. Lara Seligman, thank you so much.
Thank you.